Hey guys, it's your girl Alicia, aka Geek XX Chic, and as promised, we are starting a new series. Yes, we are now going to be doing the Prime Video series, Hanna. And I'm excited because it's actually been really well reviewed, which is good. It's very rare to see a show that actually has a fairly good rating on both Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. And Hanna has both of those things. There we go, words. So, premise of this show is very much like the premise of the movie. If none of y'all have seen the movie, I encourage you to do so. It's actually pretty good. I think it was pretty underrated for when it came out. But anyway, so since they've broken this out into an entire series, I have to think that maybe things are going to, I think the plot's going to be similar, but they're obviously going to have to get a little bit more meat and potatoes than that because, I mean, if it's just to go find and kill, well, that can be done in 1 or 2 episodes. Without further ado, we're going to go into episode 1, which is called Forest. I'm hoping I'm going to love this, guys. Hope you will love watching it along with me. And if you haven't already, go ahead and click that subscribe button because you know what? You belong here. Be part of the fam. We miss you. Even though we don't know you, we already miss you. On with the show. Let's go. It's a Prime original. Oh, hey, I know this guy. He's the Altered Carbon guy. Romania. How old do I feel that 2003 is like a throwback now? Dude, you're going like 2 clicks an hour. Let's go. All right, well, that's one way to get rid of a rental. Now just push a few of them out of the chopper. Just be like, oh, I sneezed, oops. All right, that was the first episode, guys, which was called Forest. And yes, it very much was centered around there. I liked it. It was very much groundwork. Not a lot happening in this episode, of course, until the end, but that's kind of what I expected. As I said before, the movie kind of very lightly touched on, I should say, Hanna's life before she started her journey to try to assassinate the woman who has been after her whole life. But I'm glad that the show has taken a little bit of time to really give us an understanding of how Hanna becomes the badass we saw in the movie. And again, I'm assuming the show kind of just thinks everyone's probably watched the movie or at the very least knows the premise. But I do like that they just took the time to be like, this is how... Well, I shouldn't say. We don't know yet, but my guess is that they're laying some groundwork here because if we see Hanna do some crazy-ish in the next couple of episodes, it's kind of nice to know, like, how did a girl who's supposed to be, pardon me, how's a girl that's supposed to be, what did they say, 15 years old? How is she able to take out grown men? How is she able to handle weapons experts? How is she able to handle special forces / trained assassins? Like, we need to really understand how she's capable of doing what she does. And so they really gave us a lot of that in this episode with that training montage. We got to see that basically pretty much it looks like from the second she could walk and somewhat take care of herself, she's been learning how to defend herself, how to kill, and probably a whole lot more that we're going to see going forward. But I like that they also brought out the detriment, I guess you could say, that she's experienced by growing up the way that she did. I understand, you know, Eric, he did what he thought he had to do. It's kind of sad that he only grabbed 1 child, but I guess I understand in the grand scheme of things, you know, it's hard enough to take care of 1 baby, let alone if they tried to take more. I'm just curious as to why it was Hanna. Because he kept saying, I'm your father, this is your mother. The movie didn't really get into the parents of these kids or how they came to be, so I'm hoping that the show actually explains how all these kids came to be, where their parents are. It's coming back to my point, I understand why Eric felt like he did what he had to do, which was keeping her away from anybody or anything. Him raising her away from everything. I like how this episode really showed that there is obviously it protected Hanna and him and allowed them to have this relationship and allowed for her to have a life outside of God knows whatever the heck they had set up for her if she'd stayed where she was. But we saw that there were so many flaws in the way that she grew up, right? We saw obviously the complete and utter isolation. I mean, yes, her dad was great, but I just thought that conversation they were having where he was like, you want to live out in the world? You know, and then she's like, yeah. And then he's like, and then she was like, oh, we're just going to stay here forever. It's just going to be the 2 of us. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, no. Eric kind of forgot that, yes, sir, you're a grown man. You lived, I don't know, 30, 40 years of your life in the real world. and now you're perfectly fine to live in the wilderness forever with your daughter, but she's never known anything but this somewhat small diameter of forest, and that's not a life. That's not fair. Sadly, Eric was a bit short-sighted, and I guess as you could see through the show, he was very much in survivalist mode and not really thinking about the greater ramifications of their isolation, and the fact that eventually when Hanna started to get older and reason for herself and recognize that there is a world outside of this little bubble she's been in, that at some point she'd want to explore it and that she'd want to be a part of it and have friends. And we saw why she was drawn to Arvo, right? It's just nature beyond being just curious. I mean, she's also a teenager. We saw her experiencing her first menstrual period and being like, you know, these are things that, yes, she could talk to her dad on a clinical sense with, but there's just all sorts of things that happen during your teens and during your developmental years that you kind of need to experience with more people. And bless Eric, but he really didn't, I don't think he wanted to think about the fact that Hanna was getting to that age where he was going to have to make some tough decisions. And I like that the show really showed that even though, of course, I was just being facetious when I was saying, girl, why are you going out here and doing those things? Of course you would, right? All of us at that age, 15, 16, 17 years old, it's a very exploratory time of our lives, and it was only natural that Hanna would want to meet someone other than her father, see if all the things he had told her was true, that all people can't be trusted. Yeah, I think this episode did a really good introductory job of letting us know more about what Hanna is like. We didn't really get as much into Eric and his past, so I'm hoping we'll get a little bit of that as the show goes on. But the show is called Hanna, so if we don't get it, I'll understand. Like, this is, I think, going to be definitely much more focused on her journey and her exploration of the new world. It's like, I think that last shot was really well done with her being in the chopper above everything and really for the first time in her life seeing just how expansive the world is. I really hope that the show does a good job of exploring just how overwhelming it's going to be for her for a while with all the new sounds and sights, and we're really going to have a fun time watching Hanna navigate this without having the security net of her father that she's had her entire life. So I really like this episode so far, guys. What did you think? Have you watched this before? What are your thoughts? Or if this is your first time watching along with me, how are you feeling about the episode? Please leave your comments below. You know I love reading them and getting involved with you. And if you haven't already, guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. So if you like this video, guys, please go ahead and click like. And if you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time, see ya!